All right, Tuesday, Algebra 2. Hey, remember rational exponents? Well, there's a reason why I dedicated an entire test to just rational exponents and nth roots. Well, today we're going to cover them, how to solve for x when we have a rational exponent. So just a refresher. So if you have a base, let's call it x. The base is x, and the power is taken to the a over b power. So remember, if we have a numerator over a denominator in the exponent, that the numerator is the power and the denominator is the root. So what this means is you're taking x to the 8th power, but also the bth root. So just to refresh my memory, I could interpret this as the bth root of x to quantity to the 8th power, or x to the a power, and then that quantity is taken to the b root. So what does this mean? Let's take 3 examples. So see if you can do this independently, and I'm going to ask the question, how do I undo that? Okay, so for example, x to the 2/3 power literally means that the 2 is the power and the 3 is the root. So I could interpret this in 2 ways. I get to interpret this as the cube root of x quantity squared, or x squared that gets quantity cubed. It's the same thing. You choose. Personally, I like to make it smaller before I make it bigger. Okay, same thing over here. If I have x to the 9/7 power, I just picked a random fraction, that means that the 9 is the power, the 7 is the root. So what you're basically doing is taking the 7th root of x quantity to the 9th power. Okay? Or you take x to the 9th power, and that quantity gets taken to the 7th root. Okay. One last example. X to the 11/4 power. The numerator is the power, the denominator is the root. So what this means is I can take x to the 11th power, just to give you guys some variety, and that quantity taken to the 4th root, or x taken to the 4th root quantity to the 11th power. So what does all this mean? Why am I going over this? Well, now we're going to figure out, how do I undo this? So let's follow through with a 2-step plan. So I could interpret this as, how do I undo a cube root? I'm going to cube it. Then how do I undo a square? I'm going to square root it. Okay? But you know what will make my life easier? Take the reciprocal of the 2/3 power. In other words, you know what would be faster? Take it to the 3/2 power. Because you're basically doing the same thing. You're taking it to the 3rd power and the 1/2 power, the 3rd power and the square root. Same thing over here. I could interpret this as, you know what I could do? I could take the 7th power and then the 9th root. But you know what? That seems like a tedious kind of process. So you know what I could do? Take the reciprocal. Take the whole thing to the 7/9 power. That'll make it go away. And over here, you know what'll get rid of the 11/4 power? The 4/11 power. So that's basically what we're doing today, is how to isolate x when one of the layers is a rational exponent. So let's get 8 problems done. Okay, so for example, if I've got 4 times x to the 3/2 power, I'm going to target that x, and that whole thing is equal to the 108th power, let's look at the layers of x. So In this example, remember we're following the rules of PEMDAS. The first thing that comes to mind is the exponent. Well, the first thing being done to x is it's being taken to the 3 halves power. Then, let me get some space because it's kind of small to write 3 halves power. Then it's being multiplied by 4. So now, how do I undo those layers? So remember, this is the inner layer and this is the outer layer. I'm wearing a jacket, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a prop, take off the jacket. So if I undo the layer from outermost layer to innermost layer, I need to divide both sides by 4. And then, what's the reciprocal of the 3 halves power? The 2/3 power. So now, let's do that. So first things first, let's divide both sides by 4. I'm going to need a calculator. I know that 4 goes into 125 times, so 4 should go into 127 times. I'm very careful. So 108 divided by 4 is 27. Awesome. So that means x to the 3 halves power is equal to 27. And now I need to figure out what to the 3 halves power is 27. Well, you know what would be a better idea is if I took both sides to the 2/3 power. So let me get my green. So if I took both sides to the 2/3 power, the 3 halves power and the 2/3 power will cancel out because the opposite of, the inverse of a square root is squaring and the inverse of cubing is cube rooting. So I'm doing both of those simultaneously. Therefore, x is equal to 27 to the 2/3 power. The cube root of 27 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So therefore, x is equal to 9. But if you don't believe me, that's okay. You know what you can do? You can check your work. 4 times blank to the 3 halves power. Well, I'm going to plug in 9. I'm going to get my calculator just to make sure. So, was it 9 caret 3 halves is 27 because the square root of 9 is 3. 3 to the 3rd power is 27. So that's 4 times 27. And 4 times 27 in the calculator will be 108, which is what we wanted all along. That's all. That's all we need to do is I know what layers are being done and how to undo them. See if you can do number 2, negative 2, x to the 3/4 power equals negative 16. So I'm going to give you guys time. If you guys want to do this independently, I'm just going to rewrite the problem. Okay. So once again, pause if you want to do this problem independently. I'm just going to go straight into it. So once again, I put a target on my x because I want to look at the layers. First things first, what is bothering my x in the first layer? It's being taken to the 3/4 power. And then after that, that negative 2 coefficient, that means it's being multiplied by negative 2. And now I want to undo the outer layer and the inner layer. So how do I undo times negative 2? I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And then, this is the tricky part. How do I undo the 3/4 power? I'm going to undo cubing with cube root. I'm going to undo the 4th root with taking both sides to the 4th power. So you know what? Let's take it all in one step. I'm going to take both sides to the 4/3 power. So now we have a plan. Let's stick to the plan. I'm going to check mark, divide both sides by -2. That makes my problem so much clearer. So now I've got x to the 3/4 power is equal to -16 over -2, which is +8. Now, in order to solve this problem, I need to take both sides to the 4/3 power. So I'm just going to rewrite the problem. I'm going to get my green, and I'm going to take both sides to the 4/3 power because I want to isolate that variable. So that 4/3 power cancels out with 3/4, leaving me with 8 to the 4/3 power. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to do this in my head. The cube root of 8 is 2. 2 to the 4th is 16. So x is equal to +16. Let me make that clear. It's not a negative. X is equal to +16. But if you don't believe me, you can always check your work. So I'm going to put 16 in for x. Well, I'm going to do this part in my head. The 4th root of 16 is 2, and 2 to the 3rd power is 8. -2 times +8 is -16, which is the output we wanted all along. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to problem number 3 now. See if you can do this problem independently. X plus 2 quantity to the 3/4 power minus 1 is equal to 7. All I'm going to do is that. Okay, I'm moving on to this problem. If you want to pause it and do it on your own, be my guest. So first things first, I'm going to look at this x. What is the first layer upon my x? Well, it's being added by 2. So plus 2 is the first layer. Then the second layer is x plus 2 is being taken to the 3/4 power. Oh, that's annoying. And then finally, x plus 2 quantity to the 3/4 power is being subtracted by 1. So that's the third layer. And now it equals 7. So now I'm going to develop a plan to undo the layers of x. So how do I undo -1? Plus 1. How do I undo to the 3/4 power? To the 4/3 power. Sorry, there's a hole in that notebook right there. So we undo the 3/4 power with the 4/3 power, and then finally we're going to subtract 2 for the innermost layer. Let's stick to the plan. So I'm gonna, first things first, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So that leaves me with x plus 2 to the 3/4 power is equal to 7 plus 1, which is 8. So now my next step for this problem is to take the 4/3 power on both sides. Let me get my green. Sorry about the lighting. I didn't realize my shadow's in the way. Okay, so now I've got x plus 2 to the quantity to the 3/4 power to the 4/3 power, so that cancels out. So I've got x plus 2 isolated. But now I got to do 8 to the 4/3 power. Well, the cube root of 8 is 2. 2 to the 4th power is 16, yet again. But now we've got x plus 2 is equal to 16. I'm going to do the innermost layer by subtracting 2 from both sides. So therefore, x is equal to 16 minus 2, which is +14. So now I've got x is equal to 14, but I don't trust myself, so I check my work. So I plug in, 14 goes in for x. I've got 14 plus 2, which is 16, quantity to the 3/4 power minus 1. The 16, the fourth root of 16 is 2, and then 2 to the 3rd power is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7, and that is the output we wanted this whole time. Okay, number 4. If you want to do this independently, go for it. Okay. All right. So, first things first. Layers, layers, layers. The first thing bothering my x is plus 3. The second thing bothering my x is to the 5/2 power. Finally, the third thing bothering my x is times 12. Now I'm going to undo all 3 of these layers from outermost to innermost. I'm going to undo times 12 with divided by 12. Now, how do I undo to the 5/2 power? I'm going to take it to the 2/5 power. And then I'm going to minus 3 on both sides. So now we have a plan. Let's stick to the plan. I'm going to divide both sides by 12. I apologize. I don't know what 384 divided by 12 is, but you know what I got? This $125 Tetris player. 384 divided by 12 is 32. So I've got x plus 3 quantity to the 5/2 power is equal to 32. Okay, this problem looks a little bit more manageable for me, because when I have 384, I don't really know how to do that unless I have a calculator. Okay, so we've cleared that layer. Now I need to take both sides to the 2/5 power. So the 2/5 and the 5/2 power cancel each other out, leaving me with x plus 3 is equal to, okay, here we go. 32 to the 2/5 power. That means I'm taking 32's 5th root, which is 2, and then 2 squared, which is 4. Ah, this is convenient. This is very convenient. X plus 3 equals 4. Now I'm going to undo that innermost layer by subtracting 3 from both sides. And I get 4 minus 3, or x equals 1. As nice as it is, I'm still going to check my work. I'm going to plug in x equals 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. The 5/2 power, so 4 to the 5/2 power, the square root of 4 is 2. 2 to the 5th power is 32. And then 12 times 32, I know I just did it, but I'm very thorough. 12 times 32 is 384. And that's the output we wanted all along. Okay. 4 more problems, then we'll call it a day. All right, I'm just giving you guys problems 5 and 6 right now. Okay, so let's take a look at problem number 5. 16x quantity to the 3/4 power plus 44 is equal to 556. So let's establish the layers. first things first, x is getting multiplied by 16, so times 16 is the first layer. Then 16x is being taken to the 3/4 power. And then 16x quantity to the 3/4 power is being added by 44. And now I need to undo all three of those layers. So to undo plus 44, we need to minus 44 on both sides. To undo the 3/4 power, we need to take it to the 4/3 power. And finally, to undo times 16, we need to divide both sides by 16. So first things first, I'm going to stick to my plan. Minus 44 on both sides of the equation. That cancels out, leaving me with 16x quantity to the 3/4 power. What is 556 minus 44? Oh, I don't need to borrow. I'm happy about that. Well, 6 minus 4 is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. And 5 minus 0 is 5. 512. So 16x quantity to the 3/4 power. I'm going to undo both sides of the equation by my second undo step, which is I'm going to take both sides to the 4/3 power. The 4/3 power and the 3/4 power cancel each other out, leaving me with, I'm going to need a calculator here. 16x is equal to, I don't know what 512 to the 4/3 power is, but luckily I got a machine that does. 4,096. Huh. All right. So 16x is equal to 4,096. And now, just comes the last step. I'm going to divide both sides by 16. So therefore, x is equal to 4,096 divided by 16, which is 256. I always pride myself on being really, really good at math, but you know what? I got to check my work on this one because it's ridiculous. So 16, I'm going to get my calculator on the side right here. So 16 times 256 is equal to 4,096. And then I'm going to take that to the 3/4 power. That's 512. And 512 plus 44 is, in fact, 556. And that's the output we wanted all along. Okay. Number 6, layers, layers, layers. I'm going to circle my x. Okay. So first things first, what is the first thing bothering my x? Well, x is being subtracted by 5. Then x minus 5 is taken to the 5/3 power. And then x minus 5 quantity to the 5/3 power is being taken, it's being subtracted by 73. And now I'm going to undo all three of these layers. The outermost layer has to be undone by adding 73 to both sides. How to undo the 5th power and the cube root? Well, I'm going to cube and take the 5th root, so I might as well take the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 5/3 is 3/5, so I'm going to take both sides to the 3/5 power, and then I'm going to add 5 on both sides. We've got a plan. Let's stick to the plan. I'm going to add 73 to both sides. So that gets me x minus 5, quantity to the 5/3 power. So now I'm going to add 0 plus 3 is 3, 7 plus 7 is 14, carry the 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. So x minus 5, quantity to the 5/3 power is equal to 243. Now I'm going to undo both sides by taking both sides to the 3/5 power. Well, the 5/3 power and the 3/5 power cancel each other out. I can't say I know what this is off the top of my head, so I'm going to go right to the calculator. 243 to the 3/5 power is 27. So x minus 5 equals 27. And therefore, we're going to undo that layer by adding 5 on both sides. So x is equal to 32. Check my work. I'm going to check with x equals 32. 32 minus 5 is 27. The cube root of 27 is 3, and then I check my work by doing 3 to the 5th power. 243. 243 minus 73. Sorry about that, calculator. Is 170, which is what I wanted all along. Okay. 2 more problems, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, they're big. See if you can do these problems independently. Okay, so let's take a look at problem number 7. Got my target on x. Okay, so first things first. Multiplied by 5, then subtracted by 19, and then the whole thing is taken to the 5/6 power. How do I undo all 3 of these layers? Well, to undo the 5th power and the 6th root, I'm going to take the 6th power and the 5th root, or take it to the 6/5 power, the reciprocal. Then I'm going to add both sides by 19, and then undo times 5 by divide by 5. We've got a plan now. So first things first, let's take both sides to the 6/5 power. So that cancels out the rational exponent, leaving me with 5x minus 19 is equal to, all right, here we go. We've got 32 to the 6/5 power. That's the 5th root of 32 with a lot of practice. That's 2. 2 to the 6th power is, 2 to the 6th power is 64. So now I've got 5x minus 19 is equal to Nintendo 64. I'm going to add 19 to both sides, because that's my undo layer number 2. And now 5x is equal to 64 plus 19, which is 83. It's going to be a decimal, but nothing to be alarmed about, because we can check our work. 5x is equal to 83. We're going to divide both sides by 5. Just my mental math in my head. 5 goes into 80 16 times, and with a remainder of 3, it's going to be 0.6. So let me just double check my math. 83 divided by 5 is 16.6. That's correct. But wait, it's a decimal. That makes me nervous. So I'm going to check my work. So 5 times 16.6 is going to be 83. And then 83 minus 19 taken to the 5/6 power. 83 minus 19 is 64. 64 caret to the 5/6 power is going to be 32. And that checks out. On to the last problem of the day. I put out all the stops on this one. Wow, that is a big problem. Okay, but luckily, if I approach this layer by layer, this problem is easy. So I've got 3x plus 5 quantity to the 7/3 power plus 22 is equal to 150. So first things first. It's getting multiplied by 3. 3x is then multiplied by, added by 5. And then 3x plus 5 is taken to the 7/3 power. And then finally, the last layer is it's being added by 22. So now let's take all the layers and undo them from outermost to innermost so that we can enjoy the rest of our day. We're going to do minus 22. Take both sides to the 3/7 power, subtract 5, and then divide by 3. Let's stick to the plan. So first things first, we're going to minus 22 on both sides. So I've got 3x plus 5 to the 7/3 power is equal to, I don't know what 150 minus 22 is, but I've got a calculator. 128. So now I've got 3x plus 5 to the 7/3 power is equal to 128. I'm going to undo the next layer by taking both sides to the 3/7 power. So then the 3/7 power cancels out with the 7/3 power, leaving me with 3x plus 5 is equal to, oh boy, I want to say the 7th root of 128 is 2, but I'm very, very careful, so hopefully it'll be 2 to the 3rd, which is 8. And sometimes it pays to know mental math with your exponents. So that's 3x plus 5 is 8. Oh, I can see where this is going. Now I'm going to minus 5 and then divide by 3. So if I subtract 5 on both sides, I get 3x is equal to 3. Divide both sides by 3, and I'm going to make it red so it's visible because it's at the bottom of the notebook. X is equal to 1. And finally, for the last time, check your work. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. The cube root of 8 is 2. 2 to the 7th would be 128 plus 22. 120 plus 20 is 40. 8 plus 2 is 10, so that'd be 150, which is what I wanted all along. Have a great day, guys.